Valley Sports Station for nearly 30 years. Sports Radio 95.3 FM and 1350 AM. The Ticket.
We are visiting college football fall camps. We're visiting NFL training camps. Today, we stop in Tennessee, Prater, where the Tennessee Titans, as we all know, Boise High School's own John Ojukwu, trying to make the Titans roster, and one of your favorite DBs ever on the blue, Tyreque Jones, trying to do the same. We're joined now by Mike Herndon. He covers the Titans. Great follow if you want to keep tabs on these players, because he is following them. That's at Mike Herndon NFL. Mike, welcome to Boise, Idaho Sports Talk. Mike, you ever been to Boise?
I have not. I've not made it to the Pacific Northwest yet, but I do have family in Seattle, so I'm trying to get up that way sometime soon.
We got to get you out here, Mike. All right, Mike, we're going to start with John Ojukwu, OJ, as he's been called many a years in the town of Boise, Idaho. But you listed last week before the Titans' first preseason game, Mike, John Ojukwu was the number one player you wanted to watch in that game. Mike, what do you know? What do you say?
Yeah, so I mean, right tackle for the Titans is kind of the big spot for really the one mystery starter spot that they currently have. Obviously, Nicholas Petit-Frere, their third-round pick from a year ago, got suspended for the first 6 weeks of the season with the NFL violation of the NFL gambling policy. So he's going to be out at least 6 weeks, and in that spot, you know, initially they thought maybe Jamarco Jones would be that guy. He ended up getting injured, last season, and then, comes back this year, and then was getting in fights at such a rate in training camp that I just asked him to leave. So, they brought in Chris Hubbard, who's a vet, but there's a real uncertainty about who's going to man that spot. And I know early in camp, they liked OJ quite a bit. And so he was getting some reps with the ones. He was in the mix there. And then he unfortunately suffered an injury and ended up not being able to participate in that first preseason game. I know he has not been available for the joint practices in Minnesota this week either so far. So we're hoping that we get to see him resurface here soon, because I think he's a guy that not only has a real chance to make the roster, but there's an opportunity for him to get real playing time early in the season, because that right tackle spot is far from settled. And that's a guy that I think they like quite a bit based on initial impressions that he's made at the building.
Yeah, we might have made a small mistake there, Mike. My partner and I looked in the game book. We thought OJ did get in at some point, but obviously you know more than us. Do you think he plays this weekend? And, if he plays well after this game, Mike, can he put himself as maybe the clubhouse leader to start at right tackle this year for the Tennessee Titans?
I think he's got a real chance, because I really don't think there's a second guy behind Hubbard right now. And Hubbard, he's a I think 10-year vet or close to it, has started several games with the Browns in relatively recent seasons, but the last couple of seasons he was a backup for them, and he's not an ideal tackle by any means. I think he's more of a guard, and Ojukwu, to me, like, he has great measurables. I thought he was super productive at Boise State. I was shocked he didn't get drafted, to be honest. I thought he was going to be an early day 3 guy, to be honest with you. So them picking him up in the undrafted frenzy after the draft, I thought was a great job by Rand Carthon and the Titans front office. But I think if he plays, he didn't appear at those practices today in Minnesota, so I think the odds of him playing in this preseason game are probably pretty low, unfortunately. And ultimately, maybe if he's hurt to start the season, I have no idea. Of course, the Titans run a pretty tight ship from a injury information standpoint. You get very little out of them. So we have no idea whether this is a day-to-day injury or a week-to-week injury or a month-to-month injury with him right now. But hopefully he's able to resurface here in the next couple weeks and make a real charge at that spot, because I don't think they're super confident in Hubbard at the moment.
Mike Herndon, he covers the Tennessee Titans of the National Football League. You can follow him at Twitter at Mike Herndon. That's Herndon. It's Mike Herndon NFL. You can follow him there on Twitter. Great information, a great follow on not only John Ojukwu, but Tyreque Jones. I guess I was just going to ask you that if you had any idea what the injury was, but I guess you just answered that. You have no idea what it was. We have no idea if it's minor, serious, proactive, protective, or whatever, huh?
Exactly. And Mike Vrabel, I mean, he's as tight-lipped as it comes with injury. So, unless it gets leaked out from the player side, it's not coming from the team, whatever he's dealing with. So, unfortunately, I have no insight there.
Great buzz early in the camp, just like you talked about with John Ojukwu. Lots of buzz before he got hurt. He's undrafted. He's a rookie. I'm conflicted. I don't know if he's got a shot. I don't know if he's going to get cut tomorrow. We love John here in Boise, so we certainly want to see him make the team. How rare would it be for an undrafted rookie, especially on the offensive line where things get really technical and really weird, who misses a third of camp? How difficult would it be for him to make this final roster?
It's pretty tough, and I would say in most years it would be borderline impossible, but the Titans' offensive line depth is very, very poor. I mean, he landed in a good spot for a goal to make an NFL roster. The Titans have 4 starters I think they feel pretty locked in with, from left tackle to right guard, and then that right tackle spot, as I mentioned, is probably up for grabs. Hubbard will probably make the team. There's an interior guy or two that are pretty likely to make the team. But beyond that, you're looking at, they had a 6th-round pick in Jalen Duncan, who has not been super impressive in camp. In fact, before the injury, Ojukwu was working over Duncan in the rotation, which was notable, early in camp. So there's an opportunity there, even with the injury, I think, just because there's just not a lot of trustworthy depth on the offensive line for this Titans team. And I know, that's an epidemic across the league to some degree, but it's especially bad here.
Mike Herndon, when you see John Ojukwu at practice with the Titans, what do you see? I mean, what do you see in terms of his footwork? What do you see in terms of him making the switch? He was left side here. He's going right side there with Tennessee, it looks like, for that opportunity. And I don't know if you've had a chance to interview him yet. He says about 3 words with every single answer. He's soft-spoken. He's going to tell you a milk story because this is a dude who's drank a gallon of milk every day of his entire life, and he's proud of it and loves to share that story. So hopefully he hasn't told you his disgusting milk stories. But what do you know, and what have you learned about John Ojukwu over these last couple of weeks?
Oh, well, I know what I'm asking him next time I see him. It's, to me, just watching him, the guy looks like an NFL tackle on the hoof. He moves well. He's got great length. He's, from a metric standpoint, ticks all the boxes that I think of when I think NFL tackle. Early in camp, I thought he looked smooth. He looked like a guy who, if you hadn't told me he was, an undrafted rookie, I would have said, hey, that's probably a 2nd or 3rd year guy. And, that had a chance to crack the rotation, not a guy who was going to be on the fringe of the roster. So I was very encouraged by what I saw from him. Of course, it was relatively small sample size. I think he was maybe out there for 5 or 6 practices before the injury popped up. So, I think he's a guy that I'm pretty high on. And look, this Titans offensive line, there's a lot of opportunities available, as I mentioned. And, this is a good spot for him to be for his long-term development.
What they say, though, you can't make the club from the tub. We got to get OJ healthy out there in Tennessee. Mike Herndon covers the Titans at Mike Herndon NFL. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball and talk about, like you heard me say, a very popular player here on the Blue, Tyreque Jones. He was here forever, and we talked with him all the time. He's one of the most intelligent players to come through Boise State in a while. All the coaches say that about him. You can just hear how smart he is when you talk to him and whatnot. And we had a feeling that he was going to be a tough guy to cut. Is that your feeling? Give us kind of the 411 on what you've seen. What do you know about safety Tyreque Jones there with the Titans?
Yeah, and, not to sound kind of like a broken record here, but I think, again, he's landed in a spot where there is some opportunity on this roster. The Titans have two starting safeties that are locked in, and Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker. Those are both guys who have been paid here. Byard, of course, is a multiple-time All-Pro. Hooker's been a very good player when he's been healthy. He's had a little trouble staying on the field the last couple of years, but those guys are going to be your starters. And then right now, the third safety in the rotation is Elijah Molden, who the Titans have moved from slot corner spot into the safety rotation to try to get him onto the field because he's kind of lost that slot corner job to Roger McCreary, their second-round pick a year ago. So Molden is the third guy, but then after that, it is really wide open as far as safeties go. I know Mike Brown has impressed them. I think he's in his second year, former undrafted player out of Miami of Ohio. And he's in that mix. And then AJ Moore, who's a veteran, is around there too. But again, Tyreque Jones, I've seen him making plays in camp. I know I've, at least off the top of my head, can remember 2 interceptions that he's made during camp. He certainly has been discussed as a smart guy, like you mentioned, a guy that's picking up the defense pretty quickly. And there's not any real experience at the safety spot behind those 2 starters. So I don't think lack of experience is something that will hold him back. So I think there's an opportunity for him to make the roster. Of course, when you're in a depth spot like safety, you're going to have to contribute on special teams. So I know that will be a key factor in making the roster. That's something that Mike Brown has done a good job of so far, and why I would probably have him kind of penciled in as the 4th safety on this team. But I think that 5th spot, if they keep a 5th, it will come down to Tyreque Jones or AJ Moore, most likely.
Good information, Mike Herndon, a columnist for the Tennessee Titans, not for the Tennessee Titans, a columnist covering the Tennessee Titans. And when you write this 53-man projection roster column here in a couple of weeks, like all columnists do, yes or no? John Ojukwu and Tyreque Jones, do they make this 53-man roster?
So for me, Ojukwu, it will come down completely to the injury situation. If he's healthy and he's been able to come back and establish his spot back in the rotation, I would say yes. I think he showed – I'd be more excited about him than virtually any other depth offensive lineman currently on this roster as far as projectable upside, chance to play in the league long term. So I would say yes, if healthy. And then for Jones, I think it's going to be really close. I'm going to say no for right now, simply because I think they're going to prioritize special teams, and he needs to show something from a special team standpoint to probably get on this 53. But I think it's going to be really close there.
By the way, just, some of these coaches have reputations. I ain't playing no damn rookie. I mean, does Mike Vrabel have any kind of rookie reputation in terms of tough love? No way you're making my team. I don't know. Does he have that kind of thought at all? Or,
I guess most rookies, it takes them a little bit of time to get into the rotation. Now they've kept, they certainly are a team where draft status does not really factor that much. They have multiple times cut draft picks to keep undrafted guys. They've got several undrafted guys who have worked their way into significant roles on this team. Tier Tart, their starting nose tackle, Aaron Brewer, their starting center, 2 guys that were undrafted 2 or 3 years ago now and have become starters. Both of them were starters last year and are kind of key figures for them in this team now. So they certainly will get a real opportunity here. Now, as far as playing rookies, you do have to prove that you can be trusted under Vrabel. He will require that of the rookies, but as soon as you earn his trust, he'll plug you right in. And to that point right now, obviously a first-round pick is one thing, but Peter Skoronski's been basically plugged in at starting left guard from the jump here, so he's certainly not going to shy away from playing rookies if they earn it.
Keep up with the Titans. See if OJ or Tyreque make this club. Follow Mike Herndon at Mike Herndon NFL. Enjoy the rest of training camp, Mike. Maybe we'll be in touch again in a few weeks if one of these guys is on that 53. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. That sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Prater, OJ, tough to make the club in the tub. Are you thinking the same thing I am? Like, dude, look at this opportunity right here for OJ. He can make this team and maybe even start, but he's hurt, man.
That's how the NFL is so stinking cruel. I mean, he could, I know I'm talking extremes here, but this is a guy who I think has NFL potential. All the coaches love his feet. They love everything about him. He was dominant at Boise State. Let's say you get just some random foot injury for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of your entire life. You live to be 90 years old, and a stupid foot injury for 2 weeks changed the trajectory of your life. I mean, he may or may not make the team based on that injury. That may or may not preset his future going down the road. And a year from now, he may be like you working at Bed Bath & Beyond.
Oh,
so
that's a
you know
shot.
What? Or 2 years from now, he's signing another contract for $70 million, whatever it is. A 2-week foot injury.
Just stop talking. You should have just leave it alone after the BB&B shot.
That was nice. Mic drop right there. Just let it go.
A mic drop, no pun intended, on making fun of my career at Bed Bath & Beyond. I love you, Prater. Hey, that's our video segment. It's always brought to you by the Dollar Loan Center. They fund loans and have been for 25 years. Visit don'tbebroke.com. Quick, inexpensive, and safe. And how about this? They're opening 16 locations soon in Idaho. Apply online for up to $5,000 at don'tbebroke.com. Keanohi Kaniho. He's talked to the media today, and things got real. He spoke about the fires back in his home state of Hawaii. JP's got the news. Let's get there. We're Prater on the Ball Game. This is Idaho Sports Talk on KTIK, The Ticket.
Idaho Sports Talk with Prater in the Ballgame. So many ways to listen on 95.3 FM, 1350 AM, and always streaming.